Hello friends, James Stevenson back with another video. This one is about comparing automotive revenue between automakers and how I was able to create a fun little chart. Oh, Loki, just such a prima donna. Alright, Loki, head back to your bed. People just want to see Loki in these videos. They want to see you, buddy. Alright, off you go. Alright, so let's, without further ado, bring up my desktop. What I should get is a Loki cam and just train that on Loki so you can watch him lounge in his bed, lazy little chihuahua that he is. Alright, I'll stop talking about the dog. And we'll focus on automotive revenue, which is the topic of this video. And what I did was I just Googled automakers by revenue, and I got this data from a website I would never have found without Google, factorywarrantylist.com, and then they have this page, car sales by revenue. And if I scroll down here, you'll see that they have listed and ranked all the automakers with the amount of revenue they generated in 2021. So these are 2021 car sales revenue. And I checked the Tesla number to make sure this wasn't bogus data, and they're using only the automotive revenue. So in the case of Tesla, they're excluding services and other and the Tesla Energy division. They're just using automotive revenue, including leasing. So this is how the information is presented here. Just a tip to anybody who's posting data like this online. It makes it hard for people to use this information when you format your percentages with arrows next to them to indicate whether they're positive or negative. This actually tripped me up. I was trying to make this chart in a big hurry and post it to make a point about market share, which I will make a different video about. This one needs to just be about this data and the chart that I made with it. So what I did was I just grabbed this information, hovering my little mouse over it, and copying all this data. Oof, sorry for the whiplash. And I just pasted it into Excel. So here's the chart that I made out of this data. You can see I have highlighted in red only the Tesla line. Everybody else gets to be gray. Tesla, because I wanted to emphasize, hey, look, the one that's increasing by a lot here is Tesla. Okay, so what I did was I pasted that information here. You can see this is the same info in this box over here. And when I did it, it looked like this. There you go. So I just had to format it a little bit to get it to fit in these boxes and be clean. And then I left it where it is. This is a good modeling practice. In case later you want to update this, it'll make it a lot easier to just have a drop zone for your source data, and then to build off of that in other columns that reference the original ones. So I had to get creative with a couple of formulas here to strip out just the non-formatted pieces of these that I wanted to get. So in the case of Toyota revenue, I didn't want this dumb dollar sign at the beginning or this space character or the word billion at the end, because you can't do math once you've got those characters in. So what I did was I used a mid, clean, and trim formula to yank out just the piece that I wanted, and then I multiplied it by 1. You can always, or you can sometimes trick Excel into thinking of the content of a cell as being a number by telling it to multiply it by 1. You're kind of asking Excel to make a number out of it when you say that it ought to be multiplied by 1. Okay, so in some cases I had to modify this mid formula. So this just says it's starting with the second character and it's going for 5 characters. Well, for some of these I didn't need 5 characters, so once it gets down to Hyundai, I changed it to take 4 characters. And then for this one, there was no decimal, and there was no number after the decimal, so I had to change it to 2, right? And this is what got me later. The first version of this that I tweeted was wrong because the Geely number down here was truncating the percentage. Maybe I'll tell you what the percentage formula is doing. So it's looking at this number and trying to ignore the dumb arrow character that's in this cell. If I come over here and look at this, you can see this is like one of those, I don't know, Marlet or Wingdings or some format that lets you put arrows instead of letters. So I had to tell it to skip over that character and then give me what's left, same as I did here, and then format these as percentages. And then in the cases of the ones that were a down arrow instead of an up arrow, I had to manually change this ×1 to ×-1 to make it a negative percentage instead of a positive number. That's one of the things that got me. And the other one was this dumb Geely thing down here where I needed to tell it to take 2 characters instead of or 4, where is it? Oh, I copied over this one that had 2 and put it here. So if you put 2 here instead of 4, I'll show you what it was doing. It gives you 100% because it's only taking the first character instead of the 4 to make 14%. Okay. So then over here I've got this one, which is the easiest one to understand. I just copied these values and I pasted them here. So this part was always right. There was never a problem here. And then I'll show you what this is doing. This is an in-cell bar chart. So what you want to do to make one of these is use the repeat function in Excel and tell it that the character you want it to repeat is the pipe. The pipe is like the shift key plus the key that's over the enter key to give you that vertical line. And then L6 is this number, the 238. So I'm telling it, hey, give me 238 pipes. And that's what character it's repeating 238 times. So you can make cool little bar charts here with just this one formula. You just drag it down. And then what you want to make sure you've done is formatted this, if I show you the home menu, as playbill format. If you use other formats, it'll put spaces between them, which is fine if what you want is for there to be spaces in between them. So you can check out different ones and see which one you like. But I use playbill because it leaves no spaces, so you've got a nice contiguous bar there. Then for my 2020 numbers, what I did was I just applied the growth percentage that this number was relative to prior year with some math to give me what the 2020 number must have been for the 2021 number to have been this much growth over it. That's what this formula is doing. It's dividing by 1 plus the growth rate to discount this back to the prior year's value. So in the case of the positive numbers, positive growth rates in 2021, it's giving me a lower number in 2020. And then for these like Honda that declined year over year, I'm applying 1 plus a negative growth rate here that I'm dividing into. So it's giving me a bigger number in the prior year. So this is a 3% decline from this. But this is an 8% increase from that. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's where this comes from. And then once I had all of these values, which I strategically left side by side, I could grab them and these labels and these data headers and drop them onto a chart. So I did label that this 2020 is approximate. Why did I do that? Because every one of these percentages over here is rounded to the nearest hundredth. So there is no decimal precision behind this. But I do have decimal precision on the 2020 number, so I didn't want anybody to come back and say, hey, Tesla's revenue in 2020 wasn't precisely 27.13. Well, no, but it was a number close to it because it was 74% growth to 47.2 in 2021. All right, so here's the chart that I made. I like to put a dark background on my chart. Sometimes I do a gradient on it to make it look extra slick. In this case, I wanted to keep this really simple. I knew I wanted this to be a linear chart, or sorry, a logarithmic chart, as opposed to a linear chart. On the y-axis, you can see I've got $10 here, $100 here, $1,000 here. So that's why. almost all of these gray lines look very flat. This one has some growth on it. That's Great Wall. They're doing better. This one has some growth on it. That's Suzuki. And this one has the most growth on it. That's what 74% growth looks like on a base 10 log scale. And yeah, Tesla is rapidly charging up the list of automakers by revenue, and nobody else is. What's this chart good for? It's good for rebuking people who say Tesla is losing EV market share. And I'll make another video where I talk about the reasons why that is. But for now, take a look at this chart that shows automotive revenue by automaker. And that's all I wanted to say in this video. So, if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, you could go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next one.